going on, Jeromes? Beautiful Friday. Sun is shining, birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for some Vikings Q&A. Thank you, everyone, for submitting questions. We usually do a couple call-outs during the week on our community tab, so keep an eye out for that. First one, fullback dive, which we need more of. No more tush pushes. Free CJ Ham. How would you feel about trading the number 11 pick and Brian ONeill to move up and take Joe Alt? It opens up cap space, and we'd have two amazing young tackles who are Hall of Fame talent. Now, Joe Alt, Minnesota kid, so certainly love that connection, but Alt needs to be at left tackle. And also, this isn't a Penei Sewell situation. I think Alt might be slightly too tall. But right side, left side, strong side, right side, blah blah blah. You want your right tackle to be a bit more of a bulldozer. Now this could flip if they draft Michael Penix, but that's going down the rabbit hole. And I respect Alt. For me, so we've even talked about this, and the Giants have been looking for a right tackle forever. They have an extra second-round pick from the Leonard Williams trade, and and ONeill is going to be approaching 30 here coming up soon. His contract is relatively sizable, has had some health issues last couple of years, and also last season it wasn't a vintage Brian ONeill year. Now, we've talked about this before, where if you trade ONeill, do you go after a guy like Talisa Fuaga from Oregon State or J.C. Latham from Alabama? Now, both those guys played right tackle in college, and I think are natural fits at right tackle, even though Latham's talked about wanting to play left tackle. I think that would make more sense as opposed to just trying to get a guy to flip sides. So, I mean, Alt is super talented, but if the Vikings were going to go down that route, my number one crush would be Talisa Fuaga. Just complete attitude on that right side. It's great, man. Next up, Balo. I would say with our cap space and the good chance that Kirko and Danilo leave, I would think the Vikings make a run at Chris Jones. Thoughts? So it's tough. If Kirk leaves, you're going to make a move in the draft to find your young quarterback of the future. Yes. Now, the thing that the greatest competitive advantage right now in the NFL is having your starting quarterback on his rookie deal, so you can spend free agency money elsewhere. And the Vikings, Kirk and Daniil gone, they have to weather one season of dead cap hits, but they still have $36 million in space. And next year, they would have around $100 million in salary cap space. Now, you do have to pay JJ. Darisaw could be all up in there too. But the Vikings, they've talked about really going for the pin with defensive free agents. And Chris Jones would be the 1-1 in terms of the defensive line. Now, Christian Wilkins, I love him. It'd be great. And he's not a lot, but he's younger than Chris Jones. But Jones is an absolute dynamic force in the middle. Like, he's great against the run. He can get his pass rush at any time that he wants. He can play every single defensive line spot. So it would be interesting. Now, Chris Jones is 30, and Chris Jones is going to be 30 for 30. He's 30 years old, and he's probably going to cost $30 million a year. So would the juice be worth the squeeze? And also, with Chris Jones, you have to gauge the Hainsworth factor. Like, if Chris Jones gets his massive contract and has a change of scenery, would he sort of take off? Now, I'm not saying that Chris Jones would do that, but it has to factor in, because Chris Jones, he's already got one premium contract. If he lands the second one, and also he's got a Super Bowl rings, I mean, what else does he have to prove? I mean, Chris Jones could retire right now today, and he would probably be a Hall of Famer, right? But I don't know. It certainly would be intriguing. Next up, Drew Smith. What would a succession plan look like at right tackle if you were in charge? What about at center? Is Ed Ingram the guy at right guard, or do you sign someone for competition? Sorry, long-winded question, Scolani. Hey, so a couple things at play here. So up at the top, we talked about the ONeill, Joe Alt, Talisa Fuaga situation. It's probably off the table. I think they roll with ONeill for one more year, but they should and could be looking for a succession plan at tackle, or at least hedging your bets. So I think that the third tackle, that swing tackle spot, is really important. Quisenberry was great last year, except he's obviously not the future. But a guy like Christian Jones from Texas, a guy like Javon Foster from Mizzou, could be in that mid-round mix as a guy that they could groom either to take over at the right side or potentially hedge if Darisaw if Darrisaw gets his extension or not, we'll see. Center, I would just cut Bradbury right now before a significant portion of his 2024 base salary becomes fully guaranteed on the third day of the new league year. I would cut Bradbury. I would sign a veteran guy like Mitch Morse. I would sign a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry III if and when they do cut him in Denver. Go down that route. Or in the draft, JPJ. I think Graham Barton's going to be a great center. I think Zach Frazier is going to be a great center. I think that Minter's going to be great too. So I think that the Vikings will have options at center. And Bradbury's been fine, but don't let good be the enemy of great in this spot. And Ed Ingram, he did make significant strides last year at right guard. If the Vikings don't bring back Reisner, I would consider shoving all your chips in and going after Michael Oneill from the Patriots. And his best spot is right guard. So Ed Ingram, I understand the whole thinking about like flip-flopping guards. It's a dangerous business, right? Especially when guys had experience on one side. Fusco, that was his downfall. Some other like Drew Samia, all that stuff. But Ed Ingram played almost exclusively left guard in college at LSU. And so it was a little bit of an upset when he ended up at right guard. So I think Ed Ingram at left guard and having him continue to grow, and Oneill at right guard, and then you find yourself a new center, and then you draft your succession plan at right tackle, baby, you could have a stew going. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Next up, Ken Curtis-Sam. Actually, we might do a separate video just expanding on that because now I just went from 6 to midnight on that. Next up, can Curtis Samuel be an upgrade for wide receiver 3 if we don't keep KJ Osborne? Yes. And Curtis Samuel is a guy that I've always liked a lot. Second round pick out of the Ohio State. Back in the day. I think he's only 27. He was kind of younger when he came in, but he was initially with the Panthers, ended up with Washington in free agency. He's put up back-to-back 60, 600, and 4 seasons for the Commies, and they've had some quarterback flux. He really is Debo light. Or he was Debo before Debo. 121 career rushing attempts. Only had 7 last year, but I think that's an underutilized part of his game. And I think if KJ is gone, I think Samuel could fit in nicely. Now, is he a true blue full route tree wide receiver? No. Is he a dynamic athlete, even at his age, that you can use in a number of ways? A little bit of a Swiss Army knife? Yes. And I think the price certainly could be right. I think the Vikings could and should be interested. Lastly, Kong Cheng Veng. I know we just re-signed Nick Muse, but are there any sleeper tight ends you like in the draft that we could maybe pick on day 3? So tight end, especially receiving tight end, could be a little bit more of a need because of Hawkinson probably going to be on the pup, probably going to take their time getting him back in. Now, Nick Muse, I like, but the Vikings, they have 2 fourths, 2 fifths, 2 sixths, and they got their 7th back. So they have 7 day 3 picks. I think one could be used on an athletic tight end. So Theo Johnson, obviously the rage of the combine, 6'6", 264, 34 catches, 341 yards, 7 touchdowns. The Jimmy Graham of this year's draft. But reportedly, the Vikings, I forget who reported it, but the Vikings have done their diligence on Eric All, the Iowa tight end. It'd be nice to finally have a Hawkeye tight end. But he's 6'5", 250. Originally was at Michigan, went to Iowa, and he is in the same mold as Theo Johnson. Did tear his ACL after 7 games, but he's a plus athlete, 21, 299, and 3. And when he tore his ACL, he was the Hawkeyes' leading receiver. So that's rough, man. The Hawkeyes are so good at producing these amazing tight ends that they cannot use effectively. I mean, my God, like at Iowa, they had Hawkinson and Noah Fant, and their offense was still booty. Because former Vikings legend Nate Stanley was that quarterback. And also Dalen Halker from Colorado State, where he went viral because, he caught 2 balls at the same time at the combine. But again, 6'5", 235, solid receiving option, 64 catches, 767 yards, 6 touchdowns for the Rams this year. So, I mean, there's a replete number of day 3 tight ends that the Vikings should and could use a draft pick on and go from there. But that's it. That's today's Q&A. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.